Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode where we talk about all things English learning. Today's topic is something that can completely change the way you speak and understand English thinking in English.
That's right. Many learners struggle with translating in their heads before speaking, which slows them down. But when you start thinking in English, everything feels more natural. So, how can you train your brain to think in English? Let's dive in.
One of the best ways to start thinking in English is to begin with simple words and phrases. For example, instead of saying "Saja lapar" in your native language and then translating it, just think "I'm hungry" straight away.
Exactly. And you can do this throughout your day with everyday objects. When you see a table, just think table, not the translation in your native language. This helps your brain form direct connections with English words instead of relying on translation.
Another great technique is to narrate your day in English. You don't have to say it out loud, just describe what you're doing in your mind. For example, "I'm making coffee," "I need to send an email," or "It's a beautiful day outside."
Yes, and don't worry about making mistakes. The goal isn't perfection, it's fluency. Over time, your brain will get used to processing English naturally.
A fun trick is to have an inner conversation with yourself in English. Imagine you're talking to a friend, answering questions, or even debating a topic. It's a great way to build confidence without pressure.
And of course, surrounding yourself with English content helps a lot. Watching movies, listening to podcasts, and reading books in English will train your brain to absorb the language without constant translation.
The key is consistency. If you make a habit of thinking in English every day, even for a few minutes, you'll notice huge improvements in how quickly you form sentences and express your thoughts naturally.
So, start small and keep practicing.
Another helpful trick is to ask yourself questions in English. For example, when you wake up, think, "What do I need to do today?" or "What should I have for breakfast?" Instead of translating in your head, try to answer immediately in English.
That's a great idea. And if you don't know a word, try describing it in English rather than switching back to your native language. For example, if you can't remember the word pillow, you could say, "The soft thing I put my head on when I sleep."
Yes, that's how native speakers do it when they forget words, too. Another fun way to practice thinking in English is by giving yourself little challenges. Try to describe what you see around you or make up a short story in your head.
Oh, I like that. You could look out the window and say, "I see a red car passing by. The driver looks like he's in a hurry. Maybe he's late for work." It turns thinking in English into a creative exercise.
Exactly. And if you like journaling, try writing a few sentences in English about your day or how you're feeling. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a way to get your thoughts flowing in English.
That's a great way to reflect and improve. Another idea is to mentally prepare responses for common situations. If you're going to a CAF, think about how you would order in English. If you're meeting a friend, imagine how the conversation might go.
The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Thinking in English isn't something that happens overnight, but if you practice daily, your brain will adapt.
That makes so much sense. It's like training your brain to be comfortable in English, so when you actually need to speak, the words just come out naturally.
Exactly. It's also helpful to listen to English as much as possible. Podcasts, movies, and even YouTube videos in English help you absorb the natural rhythm of the language.
Yeah, and I've heard that even when you don't fully understand everything, your brain is still picking up patterns and structures.
Right, it's like how babies learn a language. They listen for months before they even start speaking. So, the more you expose yourself to English, the easier it becomes to think in it.
I guess that's why immersion is so powerful. If you surround yourself with English through listening, reading, and even setting your phone's language to English, you'll get used to processing information without translating.
Absolutely. And if you're talking to yourself in English, that's even better. Some people feel silly doing it, but it really works. You don't need a conversation partner, just think out loud, even if you're alone.
That's a great point. You could just narrate what you're doing, like, "I'm making a cup of coffee. It smells amazing."
Yes, the more you do that, the more natural it becomes. Plus, it builds confidence for real conversations.
That actually sounds like a fun exercise. I guess it also helps you find gaps in your vocabulary. If I don't know how to say something, I can look it up and learn it on the spot.
Exactly, and another tip is to challenge yourself to describe things in different ways. If you don't know a word, try explaining it using the words you do know. That way, you won't get stuck when speaking.
That's smart. Instead of freezing up, I can just rephrase what I'm trying to say. Like, if I forget the word umbrella, I could say a thing that protects you from the rain.
Yes, that's actually what native speakers do all the time. We don't always have the perfect word, so we just explain things differently.
It makes sense. I think a lot of people worry too much about using the exact right words, instead of just communicating.
Absolutely, the goal is to get your point across, not to be perfect. That's why thinking in English helps. It trains your brain to work with what you have instead of getting stuck translating.
I guess it's all about practice then. The more I do it, the more natural it will feel.
100%. It's all about consistency. The more you immerse yourself, the faster you'll improve.
All right. So let's say I want to get better at this. How often should I practice thinking in English?
Ideally, every day, but don't worry, it doesn't have to be a long practice session. Even just a few minutes here, and they can make a difference. For example, when you wake up, try describing your morning routine in English.
Like, I'm getting out of bed, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm making coffee.
Exactly, and as you get more comfortable, you can try forming longer sentences. Maybe describe how you feel or what your plans are for the day.
That sounds doable. I could even do it when I'm commuting or walking somewhere.
Yes, those little moments when your mind is free are perfect for this exercise. Another great way to practice is by narrating what you see around you.
Like, if I'm in a park, I could say, there's a family having a picnic, a dog running, kids playing on the swings.
That's the idea. The more you do it, the faster your brain will get used to processing thoughts in English.
I see how this would help. I've always struggled with translating in my head, but this seems like a way to break that habit.
That's the goal. Thinking in English removes that extra step of translation. So when you speak, the words will come out naturally.
I feel like this is the missing piece for me. I already know a lot of words, but I hesitate when speaking.
Then this technique is perfect for you. Try it out for a week and see how it changes the way you think and speak.
Okay. But what if I don't know a word while thinking in English? Should I stop and look it up?
Great question. No, don't stop. Instead, try to describe it in English using words you already know. This helps build your fluency.
So if I don't remember the word umbrella, I could say, the thing you use when it rains to stay dry.
Exactly, that's a fantastic strategy. It keeps your brain thinking in English instead of switching back to your native language.
That makes sense. It's like a real conversation. If I forget a word, I have to explain it another way.
Yes, and over time, this will make you a more natural speaker. Another trick is to visualize the word instead of translating.
You mean like seeing a picture in my mind instead of thinking of the word in my native language first?
Exactly. If you see a dog, don't think of the word in your native language first, just associate the image directly with dog. This speeds up your thinking process.
That's interesting. So I should focus more on connecting words to ideas rather than translating?
Yes, that's how native speakers think. They don't translate, they just know. The more you do this, the faster you'll get at speaking without hesitation.
I'm definitely going to try this. I already talk to myself sometimes now. I'll just do it in English.
That's the spirit. And if you make it a habit, you'll see progress faster than you think.
What about grammar? Sometimes I worry too much about getting it right, and it slows me down.
That's totally normal. But here's the thing, fluency is more important than perfect grammar. If you focus too much on getting every sentence grammatically correct, you'll hesitate and overthink.
So it's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. Native speakers make mistakes all the time, but they keep talking. The key is to keep going and correct yourself naturally when you realize an error.
That makes me feel a lot better. I think I get stuck because I'm afraid of sounding silly.
And that's a mindset you need to change. Making mistakes is part of learning. The more you speak, the more confident you'll get.
Right. So instead of worrying about mistakes, I should just keep talking and learn as I go.
Exactly. And another tip, expose yourself to real English conversations. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, and pay attention to how people speak naturally.
Yeah, I've noticed that native speakers sometimes don't use perfect grammar either.
That's true. Spoken English is different from written English. The goal is communication, not perfection.
Okay, so I'll focus on fluency, not just grammar. And I will start thinking in English as much as possible.
That's the way to go. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel.
Another thing I struggle with is vocabulary. Sometimes I know what I want to say, but I just can't find the right words quickly enough.
That's super common. The best way to fix that is to expand your active vocabulary. You probably already know a lot of words, but the key is being able to use them naturally in conversation.
So how do I turn passive vocabulary into active vocabulary?
Great question. One way is to practice using new words in context. Instead of just memorizing words, try making sentences with them or using them in daily conversations.
That makes sense. Sometimes I see a word and I understand it, but I never actually use it when I speak.
Exactly. That's because your brain hasn't practiced retrieving it quickly enough. Try shadowing, where you repeat what native speakers say, or journaling in English to get comfortable using new words.
I like that idea. And I guess if I use the words enough, they'll just come naturally.
Yes, the more you use them, the easier they'll be to recall. It's all about repetition and practice.
That actually makes me feel more confident. I just need to be patient and keep practicing.
Exactly. Learning to think in English, expanding your vocabulary, and improving fluency all take time, but with consistent practice, it will feel more natural.
Thanks, Emma. I'll start journaling in English and maybe try shadowing too.
That's the spirit. And remember, mistakes are part of the learning process. The more you speak, the better you'll get.
Got it. I'll keep going.
That's the mindset. All right, that's it for today's episode. Keep practicing, keep improving, and most importantly, enjoy the process. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.